Greetings. This is a short little lecture about choosing a topic. I've adapted one of the readings that's not actually assigned for our course, but is out there in existence, so you can read it if you want, but I just thought I'd make a short little kind of lecture video out of it. One of the most difficult things about doing research is finding a good topic. Finding an area of interest is usually no problem, but discovering a specific topic within that area can be a challenge or even frustrating. So if your professor allows you the option, pick a subject that is of interest to you. Obviously, you'll enjoy the research more and it won't seem like such a chore. For example, if you're a business major interested in U.S. Latin America trade, choose something in that area that you'd like to learn more about. If you're restricted to a specific area, say for example, mental health, you might want to do some background reading, maybe try articles from an encyclopedia, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, on the subject in order to have more ideas for identifying an appropriate topic. Once you've selected or are given, as the case may be, a subject for your project, look for ways to sufficiently narrow the subject to a manageable topic. Take the mental health example. That's way too broad for a shorter research paper. That's kind of a book topic. So what you want to do is figure out something that's narrower that you can focus on. One example of a way to quickly find good topics within a subject is to scan an article database to find out what other scholars are currently researching. Libraries have multidisciplinary databases that cover a variety of subjects and make good starting points for identifying current topics. Our OneSearch here at UNF is one of those multidisciplinary databases. It's actually something called a discovery tool, but we'll learn more about what that actually means later on. Basically, OneSearch is a giant database that we dumped our other databases into. It allows you quick and easy access to all kinds of materials, books, media, journal articles, news articles, from thousands of sources on multitudes of topics. So let's briefly look at OneSearch, and we can use our broad topic of mental health as an example to use this for using the search results to help choose a more focused topic. So I have the library homepage open, which you've seen. I'm just going to type mental health into the search box. So this is a phrase, phrase meaning like more than one word, so we could choose to use the phrase search, and what that means is just putting it in quotation marks, the words of your phrase, and that could change our results. I'll go ahead and do the search so we can see how it's different. So it actually kind of cut it in half, but we aren't necessarily going to look at that right now. I just wanted to point out it's a neat little trick that you can sometimes use, and that works on Google too. All right, so for our example, let's look at a few titles that have mental health in them. We could also use the subjects, and you can see underneath individual results there, they have some subjects listed. These are basically like tags. So that means that whatever is here, the article is going to say something about that subject. Okay, so the first one, attitudes and practices of community managed mental health service staff in addressing physical health. Findings from a targeted online survey. Okay, so that one, it's looking at the mental health service staff. So if you wanted to maybe go in the direction of the people who work in mental health, that might be an idea that you could get from that topic. And if we look at the subjects, mental health services, this particular article is findings from a survey, so that's why that survey is there. Community health services, medical policy, mental health and finance, and I guess Australia, because this one probably comes from Australia. Let's look at a couple of others. There we go. How about number 5? California's historic effort to reduce the stigma of mental illness, the Mental Health Services Act. So this one's going to be like mental health policy. It looks like, obviously, California Let's look at the subjects here. So we have discrimination, because that, I don't know if you pay or you're aware, but a lot of times mental health is considered, something, or mental illness is considered something bad, so there's a lot of stigma attached to it. Sometimes people are discriminated against in the workplace if it's known that they have had some mental health issues in the past. So if we look at our subjects here, discrimination, medical care, social change, some planning, because that's what this act is talking about, government, California, of course, prevention, mental health services, law, here's that stigma there, health education, preventative health services, so all kinds of good things that you might use to kind of come up with a topic that's a little bit more adaptable and something that you could do in, say, like 5 to 10 pages of a research project that you had in a class. So, generally speaking, the best choices for research topics have one or more of the following characteristics. So first, currency, as in the topic is currently being discussed widely by professionals in the field. Another element might be controversy or dispute. So the topic lends itself easily to debate or can be argued from a pro and con perspective. There are, in several classes, especially in the English department, assignments that are exactly that. They look for a controversial issue, and then as a student, you have to do some research on that topic. Sometimes you have to pick a side too and explain why the sides are different. Another element could be verifiability. So that meaning the topic doesn't fall into the realm of supernatural or involve unverifiable reports or difficult to document occurrences. So, well, I mean, you could look at something maybe like crop circles, but at this point, crop circles have kind of been disproven as not from aliens, that people did that. So, again, that's verifiable. You can find the evidence in other reports of that. And then also the last element would be focus, so that the topic that you want to work with is neither too broad to be manageable nor too narrow to be successful. And that is the main point, basically, of choosing a topic. Make sure that it's manageable, that it's current, that it has something of interest to you, and you will be set to move forward with your research.